Welcome to another episode of Community Chat. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I will be your host for this particular episode. We are working right now on a collection of interviews with individuals who are running for offices, seats on committees and boards here in the town of Abington. As you may or may not know, town election is right around the corner, April 29th. It's a Saturday at the Beaver Brook. Now, if you don't know if you are registered or you need to know all the particulars about voting, best thing for you to do at this point in time is to contact the town clerk's office. They will give you all the information that you need. This particular political season, we have been interviewing candidates for the select board, for planning board, and school committee. Joining me today as a guest to talk about their campaign for office is Nicole Emery. Nicole. Hello. Welcome to Community Chat. Let's start off by you giving a little bit of a background on yourself for folks who may or may not know you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I am originally from Rockland, graduated from Rockland High School, so hop, skip, and a jump away from here. I have 2 bachelor's degrees, one in psychology, one in nursing, both from UConn, go Huskies. I am a registered nurse. I work inpatient and in home health. I have 4 children, all fairly young, 8 and under, and I'm also a special needs mom to a wonderful nonverbal autistic son, and it's kind of me in a nutshell.
Okay. Why did you decide to run for school committee?
So like a lot of parents, just wanting to be more involved. I'm active in a lot of different committees in town. I am a member of the PTO. I've been attending school committee meetings since my oldest was started in school. So just wanted to be more involved and just take kind of a step up. Also, while I think that the school board is really great, everyone brings their own little uniqueness to the board, I do think that there's room for a more diversified perspective. So I think I could bring that, and I would love that opportunity.
What do you bring to the school committee in regards to either experience or knowledge when it comes to some of the things that they will discuss and decide for the students of Abington?
So I think, again, I'm a special needs mom. I think that anyone with a special needs child will understand when I say that you kind of get you just become the biggest advocate that you'll ever meet, and that can also translate not just for your only child, for all, advocating for all students. In addition, I do think that while the connection may not be as obvious to everyone, but being a nurse, there's a lot of things I can take from that experience and apply it to being a school board member. I am a team player. I have to be in all situations at the hospital, have to have effective communication. Usually life depends on it. Things like that. I have worked inpatient for 10 years. I've been mostly in oncology, end-of-life care. I think it's a unique ability to be able to have somewhat uncomfortable conversations, to comfortably have uncomfortable and difficult conversations that I think that being able to do that will translate well to having board conversations, and just so some of those experiences I think will be helpful.
Okay. What do you feel are the public's main concerns regarding the school system?
So I know classroom sizes and teacher to student ratio is always a big one, maintaining, what's best for the kids there. I would also say that I know a lot of parents have concerns with school safety. I think Abington does a really great job at keeping our students safe, so I'm not questioning that. And I think our Abington Police Department's amazing. Just though, with recent events, it does make you really worry as a parent. Could we be doing more? What, changes could we make? I know a lot of parents would like to see, and even myself, an SRO at each school and committed to being at the schools during the school day. I know that there's a lot of challenges with that staffing-wise, so maybe if there's other ways we could fill that role. Other challenges, well, I hate to say challenge, I think some of the programs like the English Learner Program, even special education, continue to grow. That's amazing. That's not a challenge in itself, but the challenges that come with it is making sure that we're able to provide for those programs, because with that comes the need for more resources, more staff. So making sure that we're doing all of that. And I just want to also say mental health, I kind of tie that in with safety, but I think mental health still continues to be a big issue. It was big before COVID. I think COVID may have made it a little bit worse, or did make it a little bit worse, and just making sure that we are attending to that the way we should, identifying students early that might have some issues, things like that.
You had mentioned class sizes. What do you feel is an ideal class size, and does that vary depending on the groups of grades? I mean, do you feel that it should be different K through 3, or the middle school, should it be different as far as the class size to high school?
I think.
And does it also weigh in as to if there's a paraprofessional that is involved with the teacher? Is that something that all plays?
I think there's a lot of factors. Whether it's a class that has students that have like one-to-one pairs in it, if they're an English learner class with, depending on how many English learners are in the class, the students that are in the class, the types of needs that even your other students have, I think that plays into it. The actual number, I do think it probably is different. I have to be honest, I'm not completely familiar with what's best for the older grades, but I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, and taking all that into an account, I don't think the same number, the number would be the same for a class that has more needs than another class, if that makes sense.
Okay. The next question I'm going to ask you, I'm not looking for you to give me context on the items I'm going to list off, but more so your thoughts on how it should be, how you would handle it as a school committee member. The school committee's had to address the public concerns over various things, whether it's masking during COVID, certain books in the middle high school library, to recently about Good Friday as it being, it being a day off for religious purposes. Yes. If elected, how would you tackle certain public concerns? Well, how would you like to see them handled if you're a member of that committee?
If a member, I would really advocate for hearing everybody out that wanted to speak, allowing everyone to speak, and affording everyone the opportunity to be heard. I think we could do a little bit better. I know that the agendas are posted and things go out in emails, but I also know that not everyone, reads their email, and in whether or not that's, people will say, well, that's their own fault. I do think we could do a better job at letting people know when there are some really big, important items on an agenda, rather than just posting the agenda. I would be committed to saying, hey, there's this big topic. I think the more input that we get from the community, from residents, from parents, the better. Maintaining transparency, but just really making a commitment to reach out and say, this is something that's being discussed, whether or not you agree, disagree, whichever way you fall. I think it's really important to hear from not just one side, but both sides.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit of challenges within the school system, whether it's the near future or as the school year is closing out. How do you feel that the school committee should address those needs and challenges?
I think a huge challenge is going to continue to be our classroom sizes, the physical capacity, the physical limitations that we have on housing our students. I know even, I have a second grader that I'm wondering when she gets to Woodsdale, what will that look like, because there is, there's space limitations. So that might mean that as the classroom cohorts get bigger, what will we need to do? Will we need to look into mobile classrooms, other options? I think that there's going to have to be more discussion around that, and I would definitely be in favor of trying to keep that ratio of student to teacher on the lower side, and making whatever changes we had to do to meet those changes.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the school's budget, your understanding of the budget, how it's funded, and what needs to be done consistently to be able to make sure that the district's educational needs are met.
So my understanding is the budget is funded through obviously our tax dollars, as well as their state funding, and then there is parts of it that are federal grants. The budget is come up with between the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, or it's set between the two of them in conjunction with the school committee. The school committee has a subcommittee that I believe meets with the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and I believe the finance committee. So kind of a meeting of the minds. School committee then approves it, or asks questions, changes it, and then approves it. And then, did you ask to maintain it, or what was the last part of that?
As far as what do you feel the committee should address, how should they address those needs and challenges consistently?
So I think just maintaining fiscal responsibility, constantly looking at is what we're doing, does it make sense? An example would be, if there's a capital need, like, throwing out like Woodsdale, for example, the roof, I know has been on the agenda for many years. So reassessing is what we're doing, the repairs that we keep doing to it to maintain it, is that now a financially responsible decision, or at what point are we spending more to repair it than to just replace it? So I think constantly looking at things like that, and then looking at other ways to save money, it would be a good idea.
So you've kind of delved into my next question, and that is the school departments or the school systems capital needs, whether it's a matter of repairing certain buildings, replacing buildings. We know that the middle high school is relatively new.
Right.
You have older buildings.
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
So huge capital need, like I just mentioned, Woodsdale School, the roof. So I think that conversation, I know it's been discussed, it'll probably need to be addressed and really have a solid answer on at what point should we just replace the roof, looking at the financial impact and looking at the numbers and just figuring out that. But I think what comes to mind is the Woodsdale roof, just because I've heard it so many times discussed at the school committee meetings.
Okay. Let's talk about educational programs, classes. Do you feel that the school district should look to add or seek to offer certain programs in the future or classes?
I think it's always good that we're continuing to or try to offer enrichment programs where we continue to challenge our students. I would love to see programs that just field trips. I know this is for younger ages, but I think field trips are really important for the lower grades. I know there's challenges with that when it comes to buses, but I think that it's something that I remember as a kid as just things that I still remember to this day that I learned on a field trip. I think that's great. And it's not really a program, but I would like to just mention that I would like to see a community service requirement for whether it be seniors or 8th graders, just somewhere in there. I think there's a lot to be said about community service. A few things I can think of. Okay.
Yes, nothing like a field trip to the aquarium.
We always went as a kid. We always
Absolutely.
went to the aquarium or the Museum of Science. So I would love for our kids now to have the same thing.
Okay. So my question too, in regards to a tough budget season, because we haven't seen a tough budget season yet in the past couple of years, because we've had CARES Act, we've had ARPA funding that have helped, and that the state has actually tried to do its best to give Chapter 70 monies to help. But in a season when we may see lower than expected monies that we get, what programs, classes, and it could be anything, it could be the arts, it could be sports, what would you want to make sure that you did what you could to find the funding to protect those particular programs or classes?
I think I would still, I still feel that it's important to hold on to our arts and music. I think sometimes when we think of cuts, a lot of times that's the first thing to be discussed on the chopping block. And I just think that those programs are something that is really important to a lot of students, and it shouldn't always be the first thing to go. So I would advocate for keeping those programs. In addition to wanting to protect our staffing and our teachers, I think if we were to cut back and take and put in cuts there, that would really negatively impact our quality of our education. So.
Okay. we are at that point in our conversation where I basically turn it over to you and I ask you, is there something that we have not talked about or discussed, a certain topic or item, but that you'd like to either talk about, or maybe it's something that we had talked about earlier but you want to kind of reiterate or at least add to?
I think I would really like to say that I do love Abington. I love the schools. I think that our school committee over the years has worked really hard and made some really great improvements. So, my desire to get on is just to add to that and continue to make even better things happen. And like I had said, just to bring a different perspective. I just want to reiterate that I think that I have a lot of things I could offer, and I hope that other people will agree.
If folks want to find out more about you and your campaign to be a member of the school committee, how can they do that?
Facebook, Nicole Emery for Abington School Committee. Email is nemery, Nemery 02351 @gmail.com. I'm at the libraries every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. with my toddler. Facebook message, whatever means I'm available. I can make myself available.
Well, we want to thank you very much for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay. And we want to thank you for tuning into a program like this. Again, the idea is to have you be better informed when you go into the voting booth over at the Beaverbrook on April 29th and be able to decide accordingly from what the candidates are discussing and some of the items for them to be elected. Again, if you're not sure as to your voting status or you need to know anything else when it comes to the town elections, contact the town clerk's office. It's that easy. And until our next conversation, have yourself a great day.